Welcome to the debate. Today, we are looking at what I think is the absolute pinnacle of European football right now, zooming in on the events that unfolded on Saturday, January 24th, 2026. We are dissecting a performance that, in my view, really shifts the tectonic plates of the 2025-26 season. We have Real Madrid taking a 2-0 victory over Villarreal, but more importantly, we have the man who architected that victory, Kylian Mbappé.
It is certainly a significant weekend in LaLiga, I'll grant you that, but I think suggesting the tectonic plates have shifted might be a bit of dramatic license for a result that, if we're being intellectually honest, leaves us in a state of absolute deadlock, not clear superiority. We're looking at the same numbers, but I suspect we're seeing very different stories.
And that is exactly why we're here. The central question we need to answer today is this. Does Kylian Mbappe's achievement of reaching 34 goals in fewer games than Harry Kane signal that he has, well, taken the throne as the undisputed premier forward in Europe this season? Or, as I suspect you'll argue, does the fact that the raw totals are tied suggest that we're witnessing a photo finish where the winner is far from decided?
Precisely. I'm looking at the data and I see a dead heat. I see a provisional lead in La Liga that hangs by a thread, and, I see a golden boot race that is tied down to the single digit. You see dominance, I see parity. And I think the context of Real Madrid's current position, sleeping at the top of the table but with one eye wide open watching Barcelona, it supports the idea that absolutely nothing has been decided yet.
I see why you might think that, but let me give you a different perspective. This isn't just about the raw number, 34. It's about the physics of how we got there. Let me lay out the position clearly. On Saturday, Real Madrid defeated Villarreal 2-0. Who scored the goals? Kylian Mbappé, a brace. He was, as the reports state, decisive once again. This brings his tally for the 2025-26 season to 34 goals across all competitions. But here is the critical differentiator, the metric that separates the great from the truly elite. He reached this milestone in 28 games.
And Harry Kane?
Harry Kane, playing for Bayern Munich, has also reached 34 goals. However, he required 30 games to do it. That is the crux of my argument, efficiency. That is the truest measure of a striker's lethality. Mbappé is producing the same output with significantly less time on the pitch. That two-game differential is not a rounding error. It's a statement of intent. It shows a higher frequency of impact. So that tells me Mbappé is currently operating at a higher level than anyone else in Europe, including Kane.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why. You're slicing the data to find a margin that, it barely exists, just to fit a narrative of supremacy. My position is rooted in the reality of the scoreboard. The source material is explicit. Mbappé has tied Harry Kane, he has drawn level. These are words of equality, not dominance. Yes, Kane has played 30 games to Mbappé's 28, but are we really going to declare a clear superiority based on a two-game variance over a season that spans months?
In elite sport, edges are everything.
But look at the Golden Boot race, which strips away the other competitions and focuses purely on the national leagues. What do we see there? Mbappé, 21 goals. Harry Kane, 21 goals. It's identical. The race is described as wide open. If Mbappé were truly the dominant force you claim, wouldn't he have separated himself in the league tally? And what's more, you're celebrating Madrid's league position as a triumph, but they're on 51 points. Barcelona is on 49 with a game in hand against Oviedo this Sunday. Madrid is sleeping at the top, sure, but they're sleeping in a bed that might belong to someone else by Sunday night.
Okay. I want to dig into that first point you made, specifically regarding the efficiency versus volume argument. You seem to be dismissing the difference between 28 games and 30 games as trivial, or just, a quirk of the schedule. I really have to push back on that, hard.
Go ahead, explain why 2 games changes the entire definition of the player.
It comes down to a concept of, let's call it goal velocity. In modern football, with the fixture congestion we see, Champions League, domestic cups, international breaks. The primary currency a player spends is his physical condition. Minutes played are a cost. Goals scored are the revenue. If player A gives you 34 goals and it costs you 30 starts to get them, and player B gives you 34 goals but only requires 28 starts, player B is objectively providing a better rate of return.
That is a very corporate way of looking at a striker.
It's the analytical way. That's 2 games of rest. That's 180 minutes where Mbappé didn't have to risk injury, didn't accumulate fatigue, and yet still match the output of his rival. The fact that Mbappé has matched Kane's total output despite playing 2 fewer matches suggests that he is scoring at a faster rate. He is more condensed. He is more potent per touch.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered the variance inherent in football? 2 games. We're talking about roughly 180 minutes of football over the course of half a season. That could be a minor injury, a tactical rotation, or, I don't know, a suspension. It doesn't necessarily indicate that Kane is slower or less lethal. It simply means he's played 2 more matches.
But he needed those matches to get the goals.
Or perhaps his team needed him on the pitch for other reasons. Availability is a skill too. The fact that Kane has answered the bell 30 times compared to 28 suggests a durability that you're just discounting. And let's look at the ceiling argument. The output is the ceiling. They have both hit the same ceiling.
But the ceiling is moving. Mbappé hit it faster. That implies that if you project this forward, if they both play the next 10 games, Mbappé scores more. The trend line is steeper.
You're betting on a projection. I am looking at the snapshot. If the season ended today, nobody, and I mean nobody, would say, oh, Mbappé won the scoring title because he played fewer games. They would say they shared the title with 34 goals. The history books record the number of times the ball hits the net, and right now, in the eyes of the European scoring charts, they are equals. The text says he equaled Harry Kane. It implies a chase. Kane set the mark, Mbappé caught up. That feels like a peer relationship, not a hierarchical one where Mbappé is king.
I think you're undervaluing the difficulty of maintaining that higher ratio. It is much harder to score 1.2 goals per game than 1.1. But let's look at the specific nature of these goals, specifically the league count you mentioned. You correctly noted they are tied at 21 league goals.
Exactly. The race for the Golden Boot, the one that really matters for the individual hardware, is tied.
It is tied, yes. But again, we have to look at the context of the performance against Villarreal. This wasn't stat padding in a 5-0 rout against the relegation candidate. The score was 2-0, and Mbappé scored both goals. He was a difference between 1 point and 3 points. The source calls him decisive once again. That implies a pattern of behavior. He isn't just scoring, he is winning matches single-handedly. When the team needs a breakthrough, he provides it. That specific decisiveness against a solid team like Villarreal carries more weight than just adding to a tally.
I guess I'd come at it from a different way. Villarreal is a respectable side, no doubt. But this is Real Madrid we're talking about. At the Bernabeu, or even away, they are expected to win. You say he was decisive, and I agree. He scored the goals that won the game. That's his job. That's why he is one of the highest paid athletes in the world. But does scoring a brace against Villarreal elevate him into a tier above Harry Kane?
It differentiates the type of goal scorer he is.
How so? Kane is doing the same thing at Bayern Munich. Do you think Kane's 21 league goals haven't been decisive? Bayern wins tight games too. I worry we're falling into a trap of recency bias. Because Mbappé did it this Saturday, it feels more important than what Kane did last week. But the numbers flatten that out. 21 is 21.
I'm not saying Kane isn't decisive. I'm saying Mbappe's performance on Saturday was the definition of clutch. The game was balanced, Madrid wasn't cruising, they needed a moment of magic, and he provided 2. That is the decisive nature our outline highlights. It is about the quality of the moment.
It was a good performance, a great one even, but let's not pretend Villarreal is the Champions League final. It's round 21 of La Liga, and this brings me to the point that I think actually undermines your whole narrative of dominance. If Mbappé is so dominant, and if Madrid is so powerful, why is the league table so precarious?
I was hoping we would get to the table. Real Madrid, 51 points, top of the league. That sounds pretty good to me.
Provisionally top of the league. You know, I value precision in language. The source material is very careful to use that word, provisionally. And there is a massive difference between champions and provisional leaders.
They have 51 points. Barcelona has 49. In a title race, points on the board are always better than games in hand. You cannot bank a game in hand. You have to go out and win it. Madrid has done their job for round 21. They've applied the pressure.
Pressure is real, I grant you that. But let's look at the reality of the situation. Barcelona plays on Sunday. They are at home. They are playing Oviedo. Now, with all due respect to Oviedo, Barcelona at home against them is a fixture where you would expect the Catalans to take all 3 points.
Expect is the key word there. We have seen Barcelona stumble in expected wins before.
True, but probability is on their side. If they do what's expected, just as you said Madrid did what was expected against Villarreal, Barcelona goes to 52 points, Madrid drops back to second. So can we really sit here and say Mbappé has driven Madrid to dominance when by the time our listeners finish this debate, Madrid could be back in second place? The merengue team sleeps at the top, as the text says, but it might be a very short nap.
I see the logic, but I would frame it differently. Madrid has forced Barcelona to be perfect. By winning against Villarreal, thanks to Mbappé's efficiency, they have removed the margin for error for Barca. If Barcelona draws against Oviedo, Madrid stays top. If they lose, Madrid stays top. Even a 0-0 draw keeps Madrid in the driver's seat. Madrid controls the momentum right now because they have already secured the result. Mbappé's brace wasn't just about stats. It was about psychological warfare in the title race. He put the points on the board.
That's fair. Points on the board are the only thing that matters in the end. But my hesitation comes from the celebration of this moment as a conquest. It just feels premature. The text explicitly states that Madrid still needs to wait for Barca's result to know if it will remain at the top. That doesn't sound like a team that has crushed the opposition. It sounds like a team that is neck and neck in a grueling marathon. And individually, it mirrors the Mbappé-Kane situation. They are neck and neck.
So let's circle back to the Kane comparison, because I think there's a nuance regarding the golden boot we glossed over. We mentioned the league goals, but I want to look at the all competitions metric again. The source mentions that the golden boot only takes into account goals in national leagues.
Correct. 21 goals each. That's the standard.
Right. But the headline achievement, the 34 goals, includes all competitions. This implies that while they're tied in league play, Mbappé has maintained that same high output across tournaments while playing fewer games overall. To me, this suggests a consistency across different formats that is rare. It isn't just that he's efficient, it's that he's efficient everywhere, whether it's the Copa del Rey, Champions League, or La Liga.
Or it suggests that Kane has perhaps played deeper into other competitions or had more fixtures in domestic cups. We don't have the breakdown of the non-league goals here. But simply knowing the total is tied at 34 suggests that neither player has found a competition where they can slack off. They are both redlining. And honestly, isn't it possible that playing more games helps a rhythm?
How so?
Well, I'm not convinced by the saving legs argument entirely, because it ignores the rhythm of a season. Sometimes playing every 3 days keeps a striker sharp. Their proprioception, their timing, it stays dialed in. Maybe Kane needs those 30 games to stay sharp, whereas Mbappé can turn it on and off. But does that make Mbappé better, or just different physiologically? The end result, the ball in the net, is the same. If they both end the season with 50 goals, nobody will care that Kane played 3 more games. They'll share the award.
They might share the award, but the scouts and the analysts will know who was more potent per 90 minutes.
Perhaps. But let's look at the immediate future. The article mentions the competition is also balanced. Balanced. That is the theme here. We're in January. We're past the halfway point. Usually, by now, in a season of dominance, someone has pulled away. The fact that we have a tie at 21 league goals and a tie at 34 total goals suggests this is going to be one of the tightest races in years.
I agree it's tight, but momentum is a real factor. Mbappé just scored a brace. He's fresh off a decisive performance. He's leveling up to catch Kane, as the text implies he equaled him. That momentum of catching up often carries a player past their rival. He has the wind in his sails.
And Kane is at Bayern Munich, a machine designed to create chances. He isn't going to stop scoring, and Barcelona isn't going to stop winning just because Madrid won. The narrative you're building of Mbappé leading Madrid to a title and individual glory is plausible, absolutely, but it is not yet factual. The facts are, it's a tie, and Madrid is waiting on Oviedo.
It is interesting that you frame the waiting on Oviedo part as a weakness for Madrid. You call it dependency.
It is a dependency, by definition.
Is it, or is it simply the nature of the schedule? Madrid played Saturday, Barca plays Sunday. It's a quirk of the calendar, not a deficiency in performance. Madrid did everything they could possibly do. They won 2-0. They kept a clean sheet. Their star man scored twice. You cannot ask for more than perfection in the fixture you're given.
You can't ask for more, true, but you can acknowledge the fragility of the position. If Barcelona wins 1-0 against Oviedo, just a scrappy, ugly win, they're champions of the round. They take the lead, and suddenly, Mbappe's brace is just a footnote that kept Madrid in the race, rather than the goal that put them on top.
I think footnote is harsh. A brace is never a footnote.
In the history of a title race, if you finish second by 1 point, every win feels like a what-if. But yes, I'm being provocative. The point stands. Madrid has done their part, but their destiny this weekend is not in their own hands. It's in the hands of Real Oviedo, and asking Real Oviedo to stop Barcelona is a big ask.
Which brings us back to the individual brilliance. When your destiny as a team is tight, when the margins are razor thin, you rely on the individual to break the deadlock. That is what Mbappé did against Villarreal. The game was 0-0 until he decided it wasn't. That capacity to alter reality is why I prioritize his efficiency. He doesn't need 90 minutes to hurt you. He doesn't need 30 games to hit 34 goals. He creates the numbers faster than the opposition can react.
That's a fair assessment of his talent. I have never questioned his talent. I am questioning the gap between him and Kane. You see a chasm created by 2 games? I see a bridge built by identical goal counts. Kane is matching him step for step. If Mbappé is decisive, then Kane is relentless. And in a long season, relentless often equals decisive.
But decisive wins you the specific match in front of you. Relentless wins you the stats over time. Madrid needed the win against Villarreal specifically to put pressure on Barca. Mbappé delivered that specific need.
And we will see if it was enough when the final whistle blows in Barcelona on Sunday. If Barca wins, the pressure flips right back to Madrid for next week.
As we move toward the conclusion of this discussion, I want to reiterate my stance because I think the nuance is important. The numbers we are seeing from Kylian Mbappé, 34 goals in 28 games, are not just great, they are historic in their efficiency. By surpassing Kane's efficiency rate, even if the totals are tied, he has established himself as the premier marksman in Europe right now. He has done his job for Real Madrid, securing the 3 points in the provisional lead. The trajectory is pointing up.
And I will maintain that while the numbers are elite, they are shared. The narrative of dominance is overstated when the scoreboard shows a tie. 34 goals to 34 goals. 21 league goals to 21 league goals. The race is a dead heat. And as for La Liga, Madrid is sleeping at the top, but they're sleeping with one eye open. The entire narrative of this weekend depends on what happens between Barcelona and Oviedo.
That is the beauty of it, isn't it? We have a dead heat in the Golden Boot and a 2-point gap in La Liga. The margins have never been thinner.
Absolutely. Whether you value efficiency or volume, or whether you prefer the provisional lead or the game in hand, the 2025-26 season is delivering high stakes.
Indeed. We will be watching Sunday's game closely. That's all for today's debate.
Until next time.